Mr. Obama had been eligible to run for a third term. A lot of ifs there. The president is claiming that his message of hope and change could still win elections despite the Democrats' surprise defeat in November. The president spoke with his former advisor, CNN senior political analyst David Axelrod. I'm going to talk in a moment, but first let's go to CNN's Athena Jones. She is covering the president in Hawaii tonight. Some striking remarks there by President Obama, and even a dig perhaps at Hillary Clinton.
Well, it was an interesting conversation. You heard a very honest, relaxed, contemplative President Obama. He's speaking to an old friend, someone he's known for more than 2 decades. And one of the things I thought was most interesting about what he had to say during that nearly hour-long sit-down for the Axe Files podcast is that he still believes in that vision he laid out back in 2004 at that speech of the Democratic National Convention that put him on the map. He still believes that there's not a red United States of America or a blue United States of America. There should be a United States of America. He believes that unity is possible, that it's not a fantasy, and he suggested that if he could have run again, he would have won. Take a listen.
In the wake of the election and Trump winning, a lot of people have suggested that somehow it really was a fantasy. I am confident in this vision because I'm confident that if I had run again and articulated it, I think I could have mobilized a majority of the American people to rally behind it.
He also went on, as you noted, Jim, to deliver an implicit criticism of Hillary Clinton's run. He's had a lot of good things to say about her run for the White House, but he said that Democrats need to do a better job of connecting with voters everywhere on a visceral level. Factory workers, farmers, people living outside urban centers, and also white voters in the South. Here's more of what he had to say on that.
If we can't find some way to break through what is a complicated history in the South and start winning races there and winning back Southern white voters without betraying our commitment to civil rights and diversity, if we can't do those things, then we can win elections, but we will see the same kinds of patterns that we saw during my presidency, a progressive president, but a gridlocked Congress that can't move an agenda forward.
And in what should be a surprise to no one, we've heard President-elect Trump weigh in on Twitter saying, President Obama said he thinks he would have won against me. He should say that, but I say no way. Jobs leaving, ISIS, Obamacare, etc. So Trump kind of trying to have a conversation with the president via social media. Jim?
Not the first time or the last time. Thanks very much, Athena Jones. She's in Hawaii with the president. Now let's bring in CNN senior political analyst David Axelrod. He's the man who sat down with the president there. Really, David, a fascinating interview, a deep thinking interview, but also, you know, a bit of news in there. I mean, did you hear President Obama blaming Hillary Clinton, at least in part, for the party's loss in 2016?
Well, as Athena suggested, Jim, he was very, very careful about how he raised this subject. He was clear that he was proud of Hillary Clinton, thought she had done a great job under tough circumstances, thought she had been treated unfairly by the news media. But he did say that he thought that the campaign, perhaps the candidate, took too much for granted and played things cautious because of the polling, because of some of the things that Donald Trump had said, had done, that they felt had made him vulnerable, and perhaps neglected some key parts of the country as a result of it, and wound up on the losing end, even though she won the election in the popular vote by 3 million votes.
Well, let me ask you this, because there's a lot of blame going around, a lot of blame being assigned but not necessarily accepted as we look at this race. And if you look at President Obama, certainly he won 2 big elections, no question. But if you look at the Democratic Party losses since 2009 in the Senate, in the House, in the state houses, in the state legislatures, which is going to be enormously important as we come up to the 2020 census when you have redistricting at stake, did the president accept any of his own responsibility for the loss and for the tough position that Democrats are in today?
Well, I raised it with him, and Jim, I have some standing on this because I was in the White House for the first 2 years of the Obama administration and intimately involved with the DNC and political figures around the country. And I think it's fair commentary. And what the president said was, yes, we connected with these voters in campaigns, but once in the White House, with all that was on our plate, he suggested, again implicitly, that perhaps there was some neglect there, but he also said that Democrats have to find a way to reach these voters and penetrate the filter of a Rush Limbaugh and some of the right-wing talk radio, internet sites, and so on, which he says has distorted the message as well. So he said that's a project that Democrats have to work on, along with working harder on electing people at the State House level.
Now, Donald Trump, as Athena mentioned, delivered his review via tweet. Let's just remind our viewers what he said about the president's claim. President Obama said he thinks he would have won against me. He should say that, but I say no way! Exclamation point. Jobs leaving, ISIS, Obamacare, etc. Is that a fair criticism? Does he have a point?
Well, I think you know, this is great bar stool talk. It's like, would Marciano have beaten Muhammad Ali, that kind of thing. But there are certain metrics that we can look at. The president's leaving office with a very high approval rating, akin to Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan. And there was a poll that Bloomberg did after the election that suggested he would have beaten Trump by 12 points. Now, that's not a campaign, and you don't know what will happen. But the president's point was that his point of view and that sort of more progressive, tolerant, one America kind of outlook has a majority constituency in the country. But he did say, as Athena mentioned, that if the Democratic Party doesn't solve its problems, the Democratic Party could regain the presidency but still face gridlock in Congress because of its inability to penetrate small towns and rural areas. And he said that has to be a focus moving forward.
And he said, too, that he'd want to be involved in it, perhaps, through his presidential library. David Axelrod, thanks very much for walking us through it all.